What's going on, guys? I was just going to show you what was going on with the path planning and path sequencing. I had last weekend I had gotten the just a plugin built and I got it running. Um, and so it would, whenever you would request a make plan from this thing, it would just spit out a line. It would spit out the same line every time because it was generated from a for loop that was just inside the plugin. Um, this time, however, what I did is I worked out a sequencer. It was kind of a little bit more complicated than I wanted it to be, but it works. It involves the mission controller setting the sequence. So it will set the current sequence, or you can think about it like a path segment. It'll set the current path segment and monitor the local position of the robot to see if it gets close enough to the goal. If it does get close enough, it'll signal, and it's signaling the global planner plugin itself. It will signal to load the next sequence and so on and so forth. Um, so it's a little bit convoluted as to why I have to do that, but the whole point of it was just to get it working so that we could have this, a mission file. So as I had talked about last weekend, in ROS, or really according, this navigation stack we're using, and ROS in general as a whole, it defines a robot path like this right here. So it's like, um, it's just a vector or an array. It's just a list of positions. Um, and so in this case, this is a list of sequences. So there's a couple different lists, but it's real simple. I mean, the first number is the number of position vectors in this first sequence. There's 20. And then whenever it reads down here to 20, it will look for the next sequence or however many's there. Um, and the way I've got it set up is that's the x coordinate, y coordinate, and then this is the yaw. Uh, it's just radians from north or radians from whichever direction. Um, and so I just wrote a little quick little script that will that generated this using C, C out, or stuff like that. Um, and it just drives a 10 by 10 square in the middle of the arena. Um, I'll just show you how it works. It's a lot better to see it. Anyways, so it should start, and it should just drive a big box. So whenever it gets within 1 meter of this arrow, it should load the next sequence and just drive this 10 by 10 square. That's the idea, anyways. I was really interested to see how it handled these sharp corners. Quite a bit of overlap, or overshoot, I should say. It overshoots it a little bit, um, but it locks back on pretty good. Let's see if we can get a better look at it here. All right, so I mean, looking at the metal detector, I mean, it was good for this square, good for this square. Depending on how wide that metal detector beam is, it could have missed that square, but in general, it won't. Um, Sweet. So if I turn this use dynamic window approach, that's what that stands for. Um, if I turn that off, it will show like all the possible paths. Like, see how it fans way out there. It takes a lot of processing power, so it looks cool, but like I usually leave it turned off like that. And whenever you leave it turned off like that, I think it still looks pretty cool. Oh, oh, we have got it broke right now. Yeah. I'll show you the next test. The other test mission I have is test mission 2. It's got a different starting location. It starts here. Not there. It starts here. That's where it starts. And this is a pretty interesting test because it's testing, instead of like sharp corners, it's testing super smooth continuous segments. So what I have is a circle. It's a 3x3 circle in the beginning, and it's chopped into 4 segments around. And then for each one of these segments, right, I mean, the radius is getting tucked in by a quarter of a meter. So that by the time it makes it all the way around, it's moved in, it's spiraled inward by 1 square. And it just does this just to test this dynamic controller on a really continuous path. But yeah, whenever you enable the dynamic window feature where it rejects ridiculous paths, it kind of reminds me of like the double slit experiment almost. All, you know, like our robot is a photon or something. I don't know. Anyways, it works pretty good. You know, you can read up through here and see where it says, you know, it's loading the next sequence, blah blah blah, and then it gets down here to where there's no more sequences, and then of course the controller times out. But that's pretty much it. Um, as far as what I've gotten done on that part, because that was just complicated to figure out in general. But now that we've got it to that file, I mean, we have the option of just specifying a strict plan and saying, all right, let's just, you know, I mean, that's because we're just testing, right? I mean, our robot's not going to explode. We can use this method to map. Now, this method we can't use to simultaneously map and not get blown up. I don't know if that makes sense because it's complicated enough to write a script that will generate these mission files, right? I mean, now imagine having to say, you know, getting to this vector right here and being like, whoa, whoa, hold up, we detected a mine, and then having to dynamically, you know, do some BS to go around it. Like, we can't use static mission plans for that, right? We can't use a static uh, system for that. We might be able to use a system where like we spiral inwards and like we avoid uh, always going to the inside, and then we try to return to this path as soon as possible. You know, that gets complicated. Um, Ideally, we should be using a legitimate planner provided by ROS, but those are complicated and they were proving to be difficult, and I needed to be able to say we could do this because if all else fails, I mean, at least we could map, right? I mean, at least we can map. So I hope I didn't code us into a corner here. But like I said, like this is just testing and figuring things out. So I mean, if we have to abandon this strategy altogether, like I don't care. Um, if we, especially like I would much rather hope for us to find something better than this because this isn't going to give us the dynamic ability to avoid obstacles when we detect them. But it's a good start. All right, y'all take it easy.